Hello, welcome back, and thank you for joining me on another episode with my worm video weekly updates. As always, starting off with the regular tote bins, the first of which is just a basic tote. With my totes, I don't have any holes at the bottom of the totes for drainage, and I use a single bin composting system. It's been about 3 weeks since this bin has been harvested, and it's coming along nicely. I'm going to take it a little bit slower with my two bins this cycle, and instead of putting in a whole bunch of cardboard for like 3 or 4 weeks at a time, I'm going to put in some cardboard, give it a couple weeks, and then put some more cardboard in. For the second regular tote, which I am doing as a trash bin or garbage can style, I'm just going to start putting food and cardboard in different areas of the bin instead of just putting the larger pieces of cardboard all over or adding any cocoa core to it. These bins tend to gain weight or get heavy really quickly, and I don't want them to have too much material at one time and be super heavy or have too much material when it comes time for harvesting. So for both of my regular totes, I'm just taking it very slow with the material that I'm adding. I'm noticing that with the trash bin style, it's not staying super wet, but it's definitely heavier than the regular style bin. So that's something to take into consideration if you ever consider to do the trash bin style. It does tend to be heavier than the other bin. But both regular totes are looking good, and they were fed up for the next weeks. With my vermi bag totes, this particular one was harvested just about a week or two after the regular totes. And this one, I am having a very hard time keeping it well moistened. It is drying out a lot, and the wetter castings are staying towards the bottom. So I'm finding with this one, I do have to mix it up a lot more than the regular totes. And since I'm headed into the summer, these bins, the vermi bag totes, tend to dry out. This is where I have the most problems with them, is coming into the summer. Whereas the regular totes hold a lot of humidity, the water escapes from them so quickly and they end up drying out. So I'm going to make sure this has a bunch of water added to it this week before setting it up for the next week. But again, the worms look really good in the system itself, and I'm not worried too much about this bin. Moving over to the last of my bin systems, the second vermi bag tote, which I am doing the hybrid baiting process. This week there weren't a lot of worms in the tray, and I was concerned that maybe they weren't coming up from the surface. But as I dug around in the finished castings here, I noticed I didn't see a lot of activity, a lot of bunches of worms or anything hiding anywhere. And so I'm hoping that it was just a case of I had a lot of material in there and not that the whole breeder bin system never worked out. As I'm going through the material in the holding bin, this is where I put all of the worms that I got from the bait tray. I do see that there's a good amount of worms in the cardboard, in the shredded cardboard that's in there as well. So I am feeling like maybe I did get most of the worms, but there wasn't much this week at all. There's one that you could see in the corner of the bait tray there, but there really wasn't much. And as such, when you do the bait tray, as you get towards the end, be prepared because it does smell, because the food is breaking down, but the worms aren't really breaking it down fast enough, so it can get an odor. And that's kind of a way to let you know you're overfeeding your bin. If you have a lot of food left over, or it starts to smell and it doesn't have that earthy casting smell, then you might want to hold off a week on feeding your bin. But I'm just putting the food from the bait tray into this bin. I'm not giving it a separate feeding, and breaking down the cardboard that was in there a little bit more. I'm also going to wet it down to make sure that the bin itself doesn't get too dry in the material, and then this bin is going to get set up. I haven't decided on how long I'm going to do the bait tray process. As I said, there weren't many worms, but I'm still concerned that there are smaller worms that are stuck in these castings, and I'm kind of unsure if I want to just let it go a couple weeks without a bait tray and then put a bait tray in there to see if there's any worms, because just the idea of leaving food in there and there's no worms really breaking it down, I don't want the smell to become overwhelming in the area where I keep my worms. So this might be the last time for a week or two that I feed the bin, and then I'll leave it for a few weeks and then feed it up again. But all the worm systems are doing well, and this completes the update for the 4 bin style totes that I have for vermicomposting. My very last system is my one flow through system, and I did put larger chunks of cardboard on the top, which seemed to hold in the moisture with the bubble wrap pretty well. The edges were not as crispy, but I did add quite a few layers of cardboard. So that bottom layer of shredded cardboard that I added the previous week was a bit dry. But there was a lot of food that was not broken down. So I didn't wet this down as much as I normally would. I just wanted to wet down the cardboard at the top. And I did not give my flow through system any food this week because there was so much food in between the layers. So once I just wet down the top, that was it for the flow through system. And that's it for this week for my update. And if you've gotten to the end of the video with me, please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. And as always, thanks for watching, and until next week, bye.